Throughout the years, I have delved into the past world of online video games, and undoubtedly, RPG shooter games have always held a special place in my heart. The thrill of engaging with players from all corners of the globe, while simultaneously annihilating virtual enemies, is incomparable. I connected with individuals from all walks of life, forging friendships span countries and continents. I would often stay up into the wee hours of the morning, completely engrossed in the world I was inhabiting, chatting and gaming with my newfound companions. It never once crossed my mind that these online games could threaten my well-being. After all, what could a person halfway across the world whom I've never met possibly do to me? That night I was playing Freefire, an online survival shooter game that requires players to outlast their opponents to attain victory. And while playing with random players, I teamed up with a highly skilled player who earned the MVP title with the highest kill score despite facing tough competition from other participants. I wouldn't say I was not surprised when he asked me if I would like to play more games with him, for which I pleasantly agreed without any hesitation. He was a skilled player, and I always relished the opportunity to challenge myself by playing with the best and improving my skills. So we continued playing throughout the night until the early morning hours. He entertained me throughout our matches, cracking jokes about our opponents and making me laugh. I thought we would continue playing until daybreak, but to my surprise he suddenly informed me that he needed to attend to his religious obligations and promptly logged off. It was unexpected, as his language and demeanor during our gaming session had not hinted at him being the religious type. Still, I know better than to make assumptions about people. It slowly turned into my regular interactions with him, where I would spend nighttime playing Freefire with him, and he would always abruptly go offline when it was time for his morning prayers. While playing with him one night, I mustered the courage to ask him if he genuinely believed in God. To my surprise, he responded, "No, I believe in Satan." I thought he was cracking up another joke, so I started laughing. And he didn't say anything after that either, and we played like we usually did throughout the night. But this time he didn't say he would pray before logging out. Instead, he said he was going to perform his ritual. I laughed at that, but honestly it did creep me out a little, because the tone he said did not sound like he was trying to make a joke. I then shook off my doubts about his peculiar behavior, thinking he always did make jokes while playing, so possibly this was also one of them. However, this strange pattern continued for several more nights, where he would only go offline after mentioning the ritual, until one night he asked me if I wanted to be part of his rituals and whether I was curious about them. How he spoke sent shivers down my spine, and I tried to remain composed and replied, "Nah man, I'm good. My only ritual is playing online games." And I started laughing, but instead of laughing with me like he always did, he remained silent, leaving me uneasy. This time, about 15 minutes before his usual logging out time, I heard some distant mutterings emanating from his end, which seemed to be more like incantations. The words were hardly discernible, so I could not comprehend what it could be. However, a sudden shiver ran down my spine, which was so palpable that I immediately logged out, claiming I was sleepy before he could ask anything. The thought of everything he had been uttering for the past few days lingered in my mind, and the gravity in his voice hinted that he might be involved in some occult practice. I didn't open my Freefire account for the next few days, and when I finally logged back in, he was online and immediately sent me a match request. It was as if he was waiting for me. Now, I know I said one should not jump to assumptions, and I was doing the same, but I couldn't help but feel uneasy about the situation, with all the red flags my mind was warning me about. So I blocked his account. I was wishing for it to end there. However, I foolishly continued playing with random players, unaware of what might lurk in the virtual world. During the match, I noticed a player with the username SatD098, who remained quiet the entire time. As the game approached its end, I suddenly heard a voice that struck a chord within me. It felt familiar, yet so unexpected that it sent chills down my spine. How? My mind went blank, and I could not process what was happening. I couldn't think or speak. My entire body was in shock. "Did you block me, Samuel?" he said, uttering my real name, which caught me off guard. His laughter followed his statement, but it wasn't the kind of laughter that put me at ease like it used to. Instead, it was maniacal, causing me to question whether it was even a question or if he was aware of my identity and whereabouts. I was so scared that I quit the game without completing it. I deleted the app entirely. Could it be possible that he knew my location? What other information did he have access to? Was he stalking me? I felt frightened, worried that he was observing me from a distance. Fortunately, I never heard from him after that, nor did anyone attempt to invade my home or assault me outside my house. Nevertheless, that occurrence etched itself so deeply into my psyche that I harbor trepidation about reopening Freefire even today, since I cannot shake the notion that he may still be lurking there waiting for me.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so.
Bernadette, honey, some of my friends are coming over. Can you prepare some snacks for us? Upon uttering those words from my lips, I observed my wife's piercing gaze swiftly directed toward me from the vicinity of the kitchen. The intensity of her expression did not catch me off guard. I anticipated such a reaction, since she wasn't happy with my recent behavior changes. "Are you going to play games all night with them, again?" As she spoke, her voice was infused with a wave of unmistakable anger, warning me to steer clear of the people I had been spending time with. I approached her from behind and enveloped her in a warm embrace to melt her anger. "Not all night, dear." She heaved a deep sigh in response, withdrawing from my embrace before shifting her gaze to meet mine. "For God's sake, Noah, you'll be 50 in 2 months. Act your age." She looked into my eyes and informed me of my age once again. Who said a 50-year-old can't play games? I pouted with my question. "It's not only about games, Noah. You guys scream like 5-year-olds while playing. And what about when you end up cursing each other after making weird bets? Should any of this be the behaviors of someone your age?" I couldn't deny what she had just said, so instead of replying, I excused myself. She didn't say anything after that either, since she knew I was trying to avoid her confrontations. She doesn't understand why I do what I do. It's not like I am getting any younger. As I grow old, I am more inclined to prioritize my desires and live life on my terms rather than concern myself with societal expectations and judgments regarding the behavior of an older man. F that. I choose to disregard such irrelevant noise. I don't blame my wife, she is growing old. After approximately 30 minutes, a distinct sound reached my ears, and I recognized it as the doorbell. Without hesitation, I made my way to the entrance of my abode and discovered that Bernadette was already present, welcoming my friends with a smile. One of the characteristics I deeply admire about her is her ability to conceal negative feelings, ensuring that others are unaffected. I led my companions to my room, where we settled in for an evening of gaming. As we played the popular mobile game Freefire, we lost ourselves in the thrilling action and intense competition. Meanwhile, my thoughtful wife silently brought in the snacks I had requested and placed them on the nearby table before quietly slipping out of the room, presumably to retire for the rest of the evening. As I continued to dominate the game and earn the coveted title of MVP player, I couldn't help but tease my friends, playfully insisting that their age was the reason for their inferior performance. This playful banter ignited their competitive spirit, making it an even more exciting and enjoyable gaming session as Michael was ready to place a bet. He wanted the player who lost the MVP title 3 times in a row to give $200 to the winner and never play games again. I agreed since I was overconfident that I would win this challenge. After the bet, we commenced the first match, but to my dismay I failed to secure the MVP title, as my opponents appeared to be collaborating against me. Nevertheless, I remained optimistic, believing I would emerge victorious in the next round, and brushed my first loss with a chuckle. However, as we progressed through the second game, I became increasingly agitated when I noticed my teammates supported each other while I was left to fend for myself. As the second game came to an end, I lost the title once again. The other two, who had been assisting each other, had each secured 1 victory. I couldn't help but feel cheated. This made me feel frustrated, and my anger started to build up. I couldn't help but shout at them, "Hey, quit cheating, you two, or I won't play with you anymore." I was so upset that I abruptly exited the game. However, my 2 friends snickered and muttered, "You won't be playing after tonight anyway." Their words made me even more furious, and my temper skyrocketed. "What did you just say to me, shithead?" I glared at Michael, who seemed to be having the time of my life, before my punch flew to his jaw, leaving them dumbfounded at my reaction. But before he could understand what was going on, several more punches followed the first one, and all I could see was red before my eyes as I had lost all my senses of reason to anger. As I continued hitting him, I could hear some distant voices asking me to stop and trying to pull me away from him before I was brought back to reality by the worried soft voice of my wife. She managed to pull me toward her and cupped my cheeks. She then looked at me with these worry-filled eyes asking me to calm down. I could still feel the palpitation and heat emitting from my body as I turned to see unconscious Michael covered in blood. My bloody fist screamed that I had another one of those rage attacks, but I thought I stopped having these anger episodes. Bernadette immediately called an ambulance while I sat in a daze, wondering when I would get rid of the IED that had continued to haunt me for as long as I can remember. Looking at Michael's condition, I am sure if I didn't stop when I did, I would have killed him with my bare fists, just like I killed her all those years ago.
Do you believe in precognition? No? I also didn't, until an accident that happened to me in my junior year of high school. There was a girl in our class who had recently transferred. Her name was Amelia Hush. She was kind of weird, always sitting alone, wearing dark clothes, keeps sketching weird kinds of stuff in her sketchbook. No one knew anything about her, where she lives, or where she came from. She just suddenly transferred out of the blue. We used to make fun of her among ourselves, and not just everyone in our class made fun of her. One day, she stopped a girl in the cafeteria and asked her to not eat beans today. The girl smacked Amelia's hand away, saying, "Mind your own business, weirdo." The girl then went to her friends and started making fun of Amelia while eating beans. They said something about her and started laughing. The girl laughed so hard that beans got stuck in her throat and she started choking. She was taken instantly to the nurse's office in our school, and after a while she was fine. No one else noticed, but the incident felt a bit weird to me. Amelia, who never talks to anyone, suddenly approaching the girl and asking her not to eat beans, which later became the cause of her choking. I couldn't understand, but I shook it off. After that, I started noticing Amelia's every action. Another similar incident happened after that. During volleyball practice, Amelia approached a guy asking for help when he was about to go and play his turn. Even though he kept denying it, she still insisted. The boy shrugged her off and went to play, but soon after, he got hit by the ball on the nose and it started bleeding. This incident made me sure that something is up with Amelia. But soon after, another incident took place. We were leaving from school. My friend Jacob and I were joking around and crossing the road when we saw Amelia suddenly pulled a little girl away from her mother. The woman followed her and started to scold her, but at the same time, a truck came and crashed at the same spot. The truck driver died at the scene. It was later found that the brakes stopped working, and in the moment of panic, the driver must have lost the balance and crashed. After that day, a rumor started to spread throughout the school that whoever refuses Amelia, she tries to harm that person, and people started avoiding her even more than before, except for me. I approached her to ask about those incidents. I went near her seat during the lunchtime when everyone was out and asked her, "Hey Amelia, what is up with those accidents? Did you know about it in advance or something?" I was laughing while asking so that it doesn't sound weird, but I was shocked when she nodded her head in agreement. She told me that she could do precognition. She watches the incidents in her dream, and it always comes true. After saying that, she opened her sketchbook. There were roughly made sketches. The first one was a car hitting a dog. The second one had a man who seemed unconscious, and there was also a broken flower pot near his head. I turned the page and saw that girl from the cafeteria choking, and there was a plate of beans in front of her. I was shocked and a bit worried that what if there was a sketch about me as well? So I turned the page to see the next sketch, and there was a boy with a broken nose. It was the last one. So I half believed her. Half of my mind was telling me that she must have drawn these after the incidents occurred. Students started returning to the classroom, so I went back to my seat. I couldn't stop myself from thinking about what I just saw in Amelia's sketchbook. I was questioning myself if I should believe it or not. After school, when I got home, I opened my PC and started looking online for the term precognition. Some people believed in them, but mostly it was written that there is no scientific evidence that precognition is real. It was believed to be a pseudoscience. But then I came across an article in which a neurologist said that she believed precognition to be true. I was still confused. I couldn't find any real evidence behind it, so I shut down the PC. After a few days, it was announced that our class was to go on a field trip. A day before the field trip, Amelia came to talk to me herself for the first time. Something inside me ticked that it is not a good sign. She did not say anything, just showed me a picture of the bus being in an accident, and then she turned the page and showed me a sketch of me. I was unconscious, and my head was bleeding. She had only colored the blood part of the sketch. It freaked me out. She then told me she asked the teacher to cancel the trip or postpone it, but they did not take her seriously. I could not sleep that night thinking about it. I was struggling if I should go or not, and then finally decided to not risk my life. I did not go to the field trip and asked my friends to do the same, but no one listened to me, and they all left. Later that day, we got the news that the bus got into an accident and many students got injured. I was relieved that I did not go to that field trip. They were immediately taken to the hospital, but none of them sustained serious injuries. I guess I would have been the only one if I went with them. I bought a gift for Amelia and thanked her for saving my life. 2 weeks later, Amelia transferred from school to somewhere else, and none of us have heard from her ever since. She left as she came, out of the blue, but I started believing in precognition ever since then.
The story happened a month ago. There was hands down the scariest moment of my life. Everything turned out fine. In the end, no one died or anything. Thank goodness for that. But I really did not think that at the time, it goes something like this. My friend and I were very interested in witchcraft. We live in the Bible Belt, and there has always been a strong stigma against paganism or spiritual beliefs other than Christianity. Like any sane human beings, we naturally rebelled and became fascinated with witchcraft, the occult, and other stuff like that. That's not to say that we're satanic or anything. Those kind of people definitely exist, but we were really just interested more so than generally trying to discover a new religion or something. I mean, I still go to church every Sunday. Anyway, a couple of years ago, I had introduced my friend to witchcraft. She didn't know anything about it before, but wow, she really went off the deep end. I was only moderately interested, but she took it to a new extreme. She even runs some kind of witch group on Facebook. I heard it's pretty popular. She knows witches and warlocks from all over the world and regularly participates in paganistic festivals. This one weekend, my parents had planned a trip to go to the beach. It was their anniversary. They took a trip every year to somewhere different, although it seemed like they almost always picked the beach for some reason. It was never the same beach, but a beach nonetheless. Anyways, this was our opportunity to hang out all weekend without any interference from my parents or anyone else. As I'm sure you're already guessing, we were going to be doing some witchy stuff. That wasn't the only thing we had planned though. Late that Friday night, we had simply watched a movie. The next day, we spent most of our time doing our nails and makeup. We didn't really have anywhere to go. So we just walked down to the convenience store that's down the road from my house. There's a small diner inside of it. They only offer a couple of things to eat. So we went there, got some waffles at like 3, and natural waiting around for a while, decided to go back to my place. By the time we were getting settled in for the night, I could feel both of our moods changing. We were both getting really excited to do the ritual. We talked about it a little bit here and there. She told me that she had something grand planned for that night. She didn't tell me what exactly that was going to be though. Well, you got settled in for the night, and by the time we did, the sun was already setting. We were going to do this ritual. I asked my friend if she wanted to do it, and she said yes. She went to her backpack that she brought to get something out. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I honestly wasn't sure what physical objects you needed to do any kind of ritual. I mean, can't you just channel your spirituality or something? Well, I remember feeling something, and my body changed. The second she got it out, the atmosphere was different. The hair on my arms were standing up, and she pulled out a Ouija board. I don't know if you believe in any of this stuff, but I can tell you that I was only a half believer until I felt my body physically change. The second I was in the presence of that board, this has certain power to it. The ability to communicate with spirits or ghosts may be something else entirely. Who knows? My friend brought the Ouija board to the kitchen table, and we both sat down. My mind was racing with questions. All we can say for sure is that I wanted to talk to a ghost. I already knew who I wanted to speak with before we even started channeling anyone. My grandmother. She had horrible cancer toward the end of her life, and that was how she died. She passed away in this house. It was a few years back. I was young. I always had this feeling that I didn't spend enough time with her, and I always had a lingering feeling that her spirit was still with us. And tonight was going to be the night that I got to speak with her once and for all. We sat down and began the ritual. Unfortunately, we didn't have any candles, so we just had to turn out all the lights except for the stove light. There was also some light coming in from a street light outside, and it looked really good and spooky. I told her that we were going to be talking to my grandma first, that she was still in the house with us. She agreed, and we started calling out her name. So here was the first weird part. I only addressed the spirit as my grandma. I never told my friends what my grandmother's actual name was. As much as I kind of wanted to believe that I was going to be able to speak with her, I felt like it would have been disrespectful to use her full name when doing the ritual. So I only refer to her as Grandma. Eventually, we got a reply. We asked if anyone was with us. The first time we asked, it went to now. Then again the second time. But the third time, the pointer went to yes. Now this is where it gets freaky, because when we ask out who was with us, it spelled out my grandmother's name. Again, my friend did not know my grandmother's name. I just found it weird. After the name had been spelled out, my friend asked me who it was. When I told her that it was my grandmother's name, she started getting really excited. That wasn't the feeling that I got to. I got really freaked out. It made me nervous. And that was the moment that I had realized that there was more to this world than what we see way more. I totally get it if it doesn't prove anything for you, especially because you can't verify what I'm saying. But for me, it was more than enough. Unfortunately, that was the only paranormal activity that we got all night. Nothing else of interest happened. Didn't stop us from trying again. The next day, though, my friend and I followed a similar routine on Saturday, and by the time it was getting dark, we had that vision board out. My parents had to be home on Sunday, so we knew that this was going to be our last night of doing this. So it happened like this. We sat down to try and contact another spirit. This time, we didn't try to contact my grandma. We just tried in a spirit in the vicinity you were in the house. I remember sitting down with my friend and saying, if anyone was with us, please, will you give us a sign? And at that exact moment, we heard a loud banging on the garage door. We both started screaming because we thought some kind of horrible spirits had been unleashed. We freaked out for a little while, but get this, it was my dad. He knew that I was letting my friends sleep over at our house and wanted to pull a joke on us, and they had been funny for him, and he still laughs about it sometimes. But it was absolutely mortifying for me in the moment to think that I had unknowingly unleashed some kind of demonic beast into the world. That was truly the worst part, because it made me realize if we had somehow done something in the spiritual realm, there wasn't really anything we can do to undo it. There's no Control plus Z with a ghost.